This is Jerry Coleman, play-by-play voice of the Dothan High Wolves on 96.9 The Legend, and you're tuned into the Phillip Jordan podcast.
What's up, everybody, and welcome into a special edition, live edition of the Phillip Jordan podcast. I'm your host, Phillip Jordan, in studio host and producer of Dothan Football on 96.9 The Legend, and Auburn writer for last word on college football. I am here to react live to the college football playoff bracket that will be released here very shortly. The show just started on ESPN at 11. All the talking heads are there. You got Booger McFarland, Joey Galloway, Greg McElroy, Nick Saban, and Kurt Herbstreit coming in via satellite. So we're waiting on the rankings after what happened yesterday. Of course, the big thing will be on this is, where does Alabama get in? Does SMU get in? Going into last night, I figured, okay, if Clemson wins a close game, Clemson's obviously in by winning the ACC. They are in the playoff. But then what's now going to happen with SMU and Alabama? Do you put SMU in? They lost a very close game. You had them ranked last week at number 8 going into it. Does that keep them in it? They lose right there at the buzzer, 34-31 on like a 55-yard field goal by Clemson. Again, SMU was 8. They had them ahead of Alabama. Alabama did not play this week, and they said last week that you really wouldn't change status much, or if all, if you were one of those teams that did not play this weekend. So I think that's the big thing here. I feel like Georgia's going to be number 2. Oregon will be 1. And then looking at Boise at 3 now. Clemson was at 17 yesterday when they won the game. Arizona State was at 15. Now, they dominated Iowa State, particularly in the second half. So which one of those teams gets the 4 seed? Look, I'll just give my opinion on the whole playoff thing. Look, I'm all for the 5 highest ranked conference champions getting into the playoff. I'm fine with that. But I think they need to look forward with this thing and say, okay, but that doesn't mean you get to be one of the top 4 seeds, because if Boise is a 3 seed or even a 4 seed, wherever they're at, if they're 3 or 4, look, Boise's had a great year, only 1 loss on the season. I'm not taking anything away from what they've done. Winning football games is hard. But at the same time, they are not the 3rd best team in college football. Whoever wins who you have it for, or the other team, whether it be Arizona State or Clemson, again, they're conference champions, but they're not the 3 and the 4 best team in the country. So I think moving forward, just see these things 1 through 12. Again, if you are a conference champion of the top 5, you should get in automatically. I'm all for that incentive. But you do not need to make it where it's automatic. You're a top 4 seed in this thing. And the question with Alabama and SMU is, okay, I'll throw it out there. If SMU and Alabama played today, those 2 teams played on the field, Alabama would be favored. And more than likely, I think Alabama would probably win the game. But that's not what we're talking about. I mean, yes, Alabama is, with their roster, probably a better team than SMU, but most deserving. You had SMU at 8 last week. Alabama was at 11. SMU lost at the buzzer, basically, to Clemson in the ACC championship game. They were just a few plays away. They were getting blown out early, but they came out really quarters 2 through 4. They outplayed Clemson, but Clemson had the ball last and had a chance to kick that field goal. So SMU is more deserving than Alabama to be in here. But where are they going to lie on this? And honestly, you maybe set a precedent. If you put Alabama over SMU, what is the benefit of a conference championship? Now, I think the conference championship games are and should go away in the coming years. Really, the only one that's a moneymaker is the SEC championship anyways. I mean, I watched the ACC championship game. That stadium was half empty. Or maybe not half empty, but there was a lot of portions of that stadium that were not full. SEC championship game was ultimately full, but is it fair that some teams have to play a 13th game and some teams just play 12? You don't see some teams play 18 and some teams play 17 in the National Football League, do you? No, you don't. So I think that's a thing too. If you don't put SMU in, you're saying, why is there any benefit? You got punished for playing in a conference championship game. It's basically what you're saying to SMU. Yes, it has 2 losses. Do they have a top 25 win? No. I mean, if you look at their resumes, when you look at who they've beaten, yes, Alabama's is better. But also SMU did not lose to 6-6 teams in Oklahoma and Vanderbilt on the road at that. And then Tennessee lost. Okay, that's okay for Alabama. But again, SMU, I think they should be in. I think that's the way it should go. But we shall see where this thing's going to shake out. And, who's going to be the home teams in the first round. I do think, and I said this on the show during the week, I think the loser of the Georgia-Texas game would drop down to 5. And I think the winner was going to go to 2. And I said this at the top of here on this live stream. I believe that Georgia will be number 2. So we'll see where that goes. Again, kind of repeating myself. Who's 3, who's 4, and then who's the 5th team? Who's going to be the 12 seed? I mean, they're going to add some drama when they release the bracket. So we shall see very soon what's going on. And for basketball fans out there, Auburn's up 9-3 over Richmond right now with 15-37. That game's over on the SEC network. So we're just kind of patiently awaiting the rankings on who's going to be where. Will Georgia be punished in the rankings? The Carson Beck deal. I think Carson Beck's going to be fine with yesterday. I mean, Texas outplayed Georgia really for most of that game, especially in the first half. Now, early on, Texas could not get anything going run game. But, man, Matthew Golden, their wide receiver, played great. They really targeted him. The passing game looked good for Texas. And then, Carson Beck goes down with that injury. Second half is Gunnar Stockton the whole time. Obviously, they didn't have a lot of confidence in Gunnar Stockton throwing the football, but running the ball, he made a bad interception right then. I thought that was going to be what cost Georgia the game. But you get to overtime, and if you would have asked me which team scores a touchdown, which team kicks a field goal in overtime, I said, oh, yeah, Texas scores a touchdown, Georgia kicks a field goal. But just because Georgia's offense just very limited with Gunnar Stockton in their quarterback. But, man, they played great. I'm very impressed with what Georgia did, just finding a way to win. And you got to think, too, with Georgia and Texas, Georgia's got to be in Texas' head now. I mean, Texas got beat by them at home during the season. They go into Atlanta and lose to them in the SEC championship game. Of course, that was a straight up, without a doubt, that was a Georgia home game, to say the least. It always is. I think they should move the SEC championship game around, if you're asking me. Different locations. You could play it in New Orleans some years. You could probably play it up there in Nashville. Of course, keep it where you have it from time to time in Atlanta. Maybe move the thing out to Dallas every once in a while, or get in Texas somewhere, since you now have A&M and Texas in the conference. So we'll see. And again, right now they're just throwing up the resumes on who should get a first-round bye. Boise State, Arizona State, and Clemson. I would knock Boise State down. I don't think they should get one of the top 4. I'm sorry. I mean, I think Arizona State, Clemson should be that if you're going to go with conference champions. But again, I think that's just something part of this they need to work on and fix with that. Of course, ESPN's, dragging it out, how long we're going to get to the rankings. Once they put out the rankings in the bracket, I'll give my thoughts, and then I'm going to kind of get on out of here. So hopefully we won't have to sit here a whole hour, hear me ramble on and on about where these teams should go. Now, if you're watching me right now live, or even if you're catching a replay, post a comment in the in the comment section. I'll be glad to comment or discuss anything you have to say. That's another reason why I'm doing it live. I want to get your response, your reactions too as well. So, and just kind of look at, how about Arizona State? The dominating performance they had on Saturday in their championship game. Again, Penn State played a little bit better than I thought they would on Saturday night against Oregon in the championship game, but still, it's Oregon's number 1. You got to go with Georgia 2, and then we'll see how 3 and 4 look. And again, last week the playoff rankings were Oregon and Texas 1-2. So obviously Texas is going to drop there. Then you've got Penn State, Notre Dame, Georgia. Okay, so Notre Dame's going to stay where they're at. How far does Penn State drop? It's kind of interesting. What seed will Ohio State be? Tennessee didn't play either. Again, SMU was at 8 last week. I still say, if you're going to say they were better than Alabama last week after playing 12 games, what changes your mind just because they lost a game right at the end? It'd be a whole different conversation had SMU continued to be blown out last night in the ACC championship game. But at the same time, you still said it better than Alabama last week. So where does that go with that? And then it looks like Alabama might be the first team out. So let's see. Now they're throwing up the resume comparison for Alabama and SMU. Strength of schedule rank. They've got SMU at 60, Alabama 16. Went over 500 teams. SMU's 5-2, Alabama's 5-1. Obviously, the key wins for Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, Missouri, LSU. For SMU, Louisville, Duke, Pitt, and TCU. Like, we've been through this, where they seem to lie on that. I've got likes from Jerry Coleman and Drew Crabtree. Thank you for checking out the stream. Another impromptu live stream from yours truly. And anybody want, kind of in and out on this thing, you can also, this will also be up as a podcast later on. Okay, so we're going around more reporters and such right now. So we're just waiting. We're just anxiously awaiting. Again, if you have a question or a comment, what do you think? Who is going to be in the playoff? Who do you think should be the team? Should Alabama be in a playoff? They got Alyssa Lang there in Tuscaloosa. Alabama never did do a big get together with a playoff with Nick Saban. Don't probably figure they'll be doing it now. Just kind of keep that going. But are they going to be in? And that's the big thing. And I think there's going to be a lot of conversations, a lot of questions if Alabama gets in over SMU that the committee will have to answer. I saw Josh Pate put on, I think it was on X, that Ward Emanuel's going to probably say, well, they beat the SEC champions. Well, so did Ole Miss. Just saying. And what's the difference between Ole Miss and Alabama's resume other than the fact that it's Alabama and Ole Miss? I mean, Alabama's got losses against Vanderbilt and a loss against Oklahoma, 260. Now, you look at Ole Miss, Kentucky, 4-win team this year, but they lost to a 7-5 Florida team that was much better. I kind of warned or tried to warn a lot of you people about that I thought that Florida would give Ole Miss a game. I didn't necessarily go out on a limb and say, okay, they're going to upset Ole Miss, but I still thought that was kind of interesting. And of course, Ole Miss lost that tough, very fun football game against LSU and Baton Rouge as well. They got ESPN's got Quint Kesnick there covering SMU with their deal. No team watch party today. They're just chilling out. So we'll see. We'll see how this thing is going to go. They're going around the whole thing. So, of course, you had to know ESPN was going to drag this thing out again. And Clemson. I mean, and the matchups, everybody, you can say, who's going to win the college football playoff? Who's going to win this thing? And then when you look at it, and matchups are going to be the biggest thing with this whole tournament. I'll go ahead and say this. If they put Alabama in over SMU, they should not call it the college football playoff. They should call it the college football invitational, because that is exactly what it is. I mean, did they deserve to get in? I mean, again, if SMU was like out of the top 12, I wouldn't be saying this, but you said they were better. You said they were better last week than Alabama. Does losing to Clemson by a field goal at the very end make you change all of that? So we shall see here pretty soon how all this is going to look. Again, they're ESPN now. They go to commercial. So we are going to have to wait on ESPN to see where they're going to reveal. Coming up in about 2.5 minutes. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a break too. I'm going to play a little something for you guys. It's about a minute that I'll jump back in here, and then we will hopefully see the college football playoff rankings and the bracket right here live on the Phillip Jordan Show, Phillip Jordan Podcast.
96.9 The Legend is your connection to classic country legends. But Digio Strategies has other options too. News Talk 1039 is your source for America's top news and entertainment shows, like Rick and Bubba in the morning, Glenn Beck from 9 till 11 a.m., and Clay Travis and Buck Sexton middays from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. Sean Hannity, Lars Larson, Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, and others fill your day with the latest news and views from America's top conservative voices. America at Night and Coast to Coast AM keep you company and connected throughout the night. Plus, Fox News, the Alabama Radio Network, and Wiregrass Daily News keep you informed with national, international, state, and local news. And with more musical choices like All the Hits 1067 KMX, Today's Country 95.5 WTVY, and Music 1077, Digio Strategies gives you more choices and more variety. Listen on air, online, and on our apps. 96.9 The Legend is just the beginning.
This is Ken Lambert, Dothan Wolves color analyst on 96.9 The Legend, and you are tuned in to the Phillip Jordan Podcast.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We are under a minute before ESPN comes back to release the playoff rankings. We are still patiently awaiting on these rankings on this stream. Honestly, had I known that takes so long, I might would have jumped on the live a little bit later than I had. But anyways, we're here. Got a lot of stuff out there again. Watching it live, pop a question in there. I'll be glad to answer it. Also, or discuss it, whatever, comment, question. And if you are checking this thing out on the podcast, please subscribe, rate, review. Check the podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Also over at Wiregrass Daily News, where I am the sports director. And also on YouTube, Phillip Jordan Sports. Just leave a comment, a review, all that good stuff about it. And I will also respond there. All right, now we are coming back. ESPN's back with a broadcast. Are we about to finally get these rankings that everybody is excited to see and hear about? All right, they showed Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Of course, that is where the championship game will be played there in Atlanta this year. So Georgia could be playing there again. All right, let's see what we got. They are showing the bracket without teams. They're letting us know the format. 5 conference champions, and then the 5 highest ranked teams. And then, of course, conference champions getting them first round buys, which I hope they will get rid of. The 5th champion goes wherever they're ranked and seeded. That's where the 5th conference champion will go. So we'll see how this is going to go. Are they going? Okay. Of course, December 20th is when the playoff will start. That's a Friday, and the 21st. The top seeds in the first round will be at home, and then we go to the bowl sites when the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and, of course, the final. Basically, ESPN is kind of going over how the bracket works. I guess they don't think people know how bracket works in the past, I guess. I don't know. We continue to patiently await these rankings. Again, we get to see all the people on the show. We have Reese Davis hosting, Booger McFarland, Joey Galloway. You got Greg McElroy there. You also have Nick Saban and Kurt Herbstreit checking it out. All right, at number 1 and the first round bye, we have Oregon. They come in there. No surprise there. We kind of figured that's where they would go. I would assume number 2 is going to be Georgia. That's just, and they are number 2 in AP, and that's where it's at. Georgia comes in at number 2 in the rankings. 3 is interesting. That was one of the talking points. Who gets number 3 in the rankings? Would it be a Boise or would Arizona State, Clemson? That 3 and 4 spot, very interesting. Of course, they're going to throw up the resumes again. It's a TV show, guys. ESPN is going to drag this thing out as long as they possibly can. Comparing Boise State, Arizona State, and Clemson. I would not be surprised if they give us half this bracket and go to another commercial. But yeah, they're look. I didn't say what I think about this. That look, Boise State's not one of the top 4 teams in the country. Really good team, great year, but they're not one of the top 4 teams. I mean, I know their one loss is a close loss to Oregon, and that kind of saves them. All right, so we do get it. Boise is the 3 seed in the college football playoff, winning the Mountain West. I don't think a lot of people saw that a group of 5 would be one of those top 4 seeds as we went into this thing this year. But it's kind of how way it worked out with really the ACC and the Big 12 just kind of constantly knocking each other off. And, because they were both, especially the Big 12 was highly competitive the way that season ended up. So, yeah, Boise comes in at number 3. I don't necessarily like it, but it is what it is. It's just the format we have this year. Hopefully they're kind of going to figure out some stuff and move that around. Arizona State comes in at number 4. So now it's going to be interesting. Where will Clemson come out? So now they'll be in the first round. Will it be on the road? Where will Clemson be seated in the playoff? And just the drama that game added last night. Clemson and SMU, for just Clemson, their only shot getting the playoff was winning the ACC, because if they lost that game last night, that's 4 losses. There's no way. Obviously, they were getting in, and then you just have one SMU in there. That Alabama would have been a lock to get into the playoff. So now we know the 4 teams that are getting the byes: Oregon, Georgia, Boise State, and Arizona State. Those are your top 4 teams. For people wondering, Boise comes in ranked number 9th in the ranking, and then Arizona State is ranked 12th in the rankings, but that doesn't necessarily line up with the seeding. I think that's too another thing. I think it kind of confuses maybe your casual fan, not knowing exactly what the deal is with all this stuff. So, who is going to be the next team they show us? This is about as bad as it is during the NCAA basketball tournament on CBS when they announced. People just want to know the teams. That's it. And they know that. So that's why they drag it out, because then they want you to stay locked in. Okay, Clemson comes in. Clemson, they are the 12 seed. They are ranked 16th, but they are the 12 seed. Now, here's the interesting thing about this now. They are the 12 seed, but they won the ACC against SMU. Does this mean that they have the team they beat ranked ahead of them, or does this mean Alabama is in the rankings? And something tells me they're going to hold out to the very last. That SMU Alabama portion of these rankings, they are going to hold out and wait, and for us to be on the edge of our seat, see who that team is going to be. All right, Texas comes in. Texas is the 5 seed, so Texas will host Clemson in the first round. That's a pretty intriguing matchup with those 2 teams there. If I had to go with a team I would predict to win that game, I would go with Texas. I think Texas is better than Clemson, without a doubt. I mean, Texas is undefeated outside of playing Georgia. But has Texas beaten anybody either? That's one thing we have to question with the Longhorns. All right, who is going to be the next team they show us? And I don't know. Are they going to just go 6? Are they just going to go through the matchups? Or So Oregon would play the 8-9 winner, the way it works out, I believe. So the 8-9 game is going to be, and that'll be by ranking and by seeding a very even matchup. All right, Penn State comes in at number 6. All right, so that would be the matchup going toward Boise State. So that means Penn State will play the 11. You got to think, okay, Alabama was 11 last week. Is that where SMU would drop if they're still in it? Penn State 11-2, losses to Ohio State and Oregon. That's the bad thing about Ohio State losing to Michigan. We kind of got robbed of a really great matchup in the Big Ten championship game between Ohio State and Oregon. That would have been for a first round seed. I know a lot of people went to the SEC championship game, so both those teams are in. But at the same time, they were fighting for seeding. That's what was important about Saturday. Okay, now they go with number 7. So don't show us 11 yet, but number 7 is Notre Dame. So Notre Dame does come in at number 7, and they will be hosting. Now, they will play the 10 seed. We don't know who that is yet, but Notre Dame will play the 10, and they are in the pod that would play the winner of Notre Dame, whoever they're playing, would play Georgia in the quarterfinals. And now, all right, ESPN, let's have another ranking, another team to introduce to. They're going to wait wherever Alabama or SMU is at. They're going to wait. All right, so number 8 is Ohio State. So Ohio State will be playing at home, and we could get that Oregon-Ohio State rematch because that's Ohio State will play the 9 seed. I'm going to call it. I might be wrong. I think Tennessee is going to be the 9. I think the Vols will be at number 9. Tennessee last week. Let's see. Where were they at last week? Tennessee was at, Tennessee was at 7 overall last week. I think I have the ESPN graphic here. And then last week, Tennessee was Ohio State and Tennessee. So I think they're going to keep that the same. I think we will see Ohio State, Tennessee. For people watching on YouTube, graphic courtesy of ESPN. Let's get that off before I get in trouble. But yeah, I think 8, 9, that will be, I think that's going to be Tennessee. I think, again, neither team played. Why would you change it that much? Yeah, Tennessee's the 9. So, first round, we will get Tennessee versus Ohio State. Winner will play Oregon. That's an interesting game. Tennessee going to have to go to Columbus. Obviously, going to be some very, very cold weather up there. But, I think Tennessee style kind of will translate to that. I mean, Nico, he played better against Vanderbilt throwing the ball, but really they're all about Dylan Sampson running the ball and playing great defense. Can they force Will Howard into some mistakes? Now, ranking-wise, I hadn't even updated this. Texas is 3. I said Clemson's actually ranked 16th, but the whole conference champion deal. Penn State's 4. Notre Dame is 5. Ohio State 6. And then Tennessee comes in at 7. So we have 2 spots remaining. We have the 10 and the 11. I'm pretty sure they're going to tell us the 10 next. Last week, the 10 would have been Indiana. So, I think Indiana's going to be 10. They're going to keep Indiana at 10. It looks like we're going to get a Indiana-Notre Dame matchup. All right, here comes Indiana at number 10. And they are ranked 8th in the rankings overall. So now it comes down. Will it be Alabama or will it be SMU at 11? That is the drama. They would have some mad people right now if they go to commercial. We're at 30 minutes here on the show. Like I said, this was a live reaction. to the rankings being released. And we will not tarry too long after they announce who 11 is. Okay, we're getting the resume comparison once again from ESPN. We don't went over, the strength of schedule rank. Obviously, Alabama's got that. I mean, they've got the top 25 wins, but they got the 3 losses. I mean, you lost to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. SMU does not have those kind of losses on their resume, but they don't have the top 25 wins that Alabama has. So that is the big difference. Who is coming in at 11? The bowl slate's going to be coming out today too as well. How much are you going to be interested in watching these bowl games? I mean, they already was almost not watchable or not. People didn't care about them as much because of the 14 playoff or 12-team playoff. I think it's going to be even more. As predicted, ESPN's taking their time releasing these rankings. I'm on ESPN. SMU comes in at 11. So Alabama does not make the college football playoff. SMU comes at 11. I think that's the right decision to make after last night. Obviously, they have the graphic on the screen. First team out, second team out. Alabama, I predict, will be the first team out, and second team out will be Ole Miss. Yes, first team out is Alabama, as you expect actually in there. And Miami is the next team out. So there's your bracket. First round, you'll have Texas and Clemson. You'll have Tennessee going to Ohio State. SMU will be going to Penn State. That'll be an interesting game. I wouldn't be shocked if SMU beat them. And then Indiana will be going to Notre Dame. Of course, both two teams are in the state of Indiana. And your top seeds are Oregon, Georgia, Boise, and then you have Arizona State. So that's your bracket. That's the teams that are making the college football playoff. We're going to jump into it. I have Bill Bender coming on the show later on in the week. We'll talk about more about these matchups. Did they make the right decision in his mind? I think they did, not putting in Alabama. They obviously went with most deserving versus best because, look, we all know you put Alabama and SMU on the field together, Alabama's going to be favored to win that game. But when you look at just the season as a whole, SMU was more deserving, and they should be punished for losing their 13th game. Because, Alabama played 12, SMU played 13. They should be punished for an opportunity to win a conference championship like that. So that's it. That's your playoff. I'm going to get out of here. Like I said, I wasn't going to hang around. It's basically just a reaction. If you're just checking out the show or anything like that, this will go up as a podcast as well. Hope everybody has a great rest of their Sunday. Again, Bill Bender will be on with me later in the week to dissect and talk about the rankings and where the bracket looks and all that good stuff. So more coverage coming up over on Wiregrass Daily News and here on the Phillip Jordan Podcast. Again, I hope everybody has a great Sunday. Check out the podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please follow, rate, and review. Till next time. Bye-bye.